All right, we are live. It's welcome you here to our AFL um, Fantasy League stream. I am the Fantasy Commissioner, joined today with the great Jimmy Chase, two-time division winner in our league. He finished third place once, Hall of Famer, current Peyton Hillis Award winner. So we're gonna have some of his expert knowledge today. Today's main objective is this is a three-part stream. The first part, we're going to go over a few things we're going to talk about, some things that have happened since our league meeting. And then we're going to take a break. And then we're going to come back for part two, which is going to be a preview, our preview of the NFL free agency offensive players. And then after that, we're going to do part three, which is going to be some of the defensive players and the NFL free agency. Um, but before we get going here, the one thing I would like to kind of talk about is something that's on, I'm sure, everyone's mind, and that's the coronavirus. I'm not going to go into, a bunch of stuff about it. All I'm going to say is everyone just, be safe out there. Sanitize your hands, wash your hands, do the elbow or the Basham Brothers or do the feet or whatever. Do whatever you got to do to keep yourself safe. If you're sick,
Did you say do the feet? I'm not touching no dude's feet.
okay, well, don't do the feet. But do whatever you got to do to stay safe and keep others safe. Remember, it's not just about you, it's about, everyone else, because someone you don't know might be not as immune to sickness as you are, and they can get sick easier, and sometimes it's even worse for them than it would be for you. So that's all I'm saying is just be safe out there. Don't create a bunch of panic. This will all go away, hopefully sooner than later. Um, so that's that. That's anything you want to add about coronavirus?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Obama, for spreading it.
So, uh, today we're going to go over first the just our kind of what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to start off with a meeting recap. And we're basically just going to break down the voting that had taken place, just to clarify anything that maybe is needs to be clarified. Um, then we're going to go into looking at well, actually, then we're going to discuss some of the votes after I announce them. And then we're going to look at some important AFL, so our fantasy league, and NFL dates that are upcoming. We're going to discuss future streams that we're going to do, and we'll have other people here as well. We were actually supposed to have Mark Thompson with us today,
Couldn't make
but
it. Shout out to Mark.
unfortunate circumstances came up, and he wasn't able to join us for this feed. But we'll look forward to some of his knowledge being dropped later.
Definitely.
And then we're going to jump right into a quick and very quick NFL draft preview. And you'll hear more, and we'll get more into that as we go on in this stream. And then from there, we're going to discuss some of the trades that have taken place in our league. Because we've had, I believe, 9, if I remember correctly. Just double checking here. 8. And a couple of really, really big trades that took place in our off season here. And then from there, we're going to cut stream. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back with part 2, which will be the offensive players free agency. And then again, like I said, part 3 will be the defensive players. And the reason we're doing it in 3 parts, because originally we were going to just one straight stream, but this way it gives you the option of, well, I only want to hear about the offensive players. And I haven't even told Jimmy this yet, but the way we're presenting this is not necessarily our league. We're presenting this for any league. We're just basically talking about NFL free agency, um, where some of these players could possibly go, our thoughts of where they should go, um, and then things that maybe we've heard about where they could go.
Absolutely.
So,
So if you play fantasy football, tune into this guy, the fantasy commissioner. He knows what he's talking about. He'll also show you how to rob people from draft picks. We'll go into that later.
so we'll just start off with that one. So obviously we have our fantasy vote. We have our league has a draft lottery. This year was the first year of it. That was one thing that was voted on. Was to, and all our votes are majority rules. So we have 16 teams in our league. So you have to have at least 9 votes to make something happen, to change something or make it happen. If it's a tie, it's a push, and everything stays as a status quo. So everything I'm giving you is either a majority or was a push. In the draft lottery, that was voted to continue forward with the draft lottery going forward.
Unfortunately.
Nah, he was one of the ones that voted against it, but like I said, we'll discuss these here in a second. Well, I guess you know what, we'll just discuss them as we go. Um, if you were to be an outsider, let's say you didn't have someone in the draft lottery, did it add a spark, do you think, to our meeting? Did it add some intrigue, something different?
Sure, but I don't think you needed it. I think there was enough there that added intrigue.
But the
Even if I was an outsider not playing, looking
mhm.
in, I would still vote the same because that's my thought process. What if some guy finishes dead last and then he ends up getting the number 10th pick instead of the number 1 pick?
But also it takes the teams that because for a long time you were kind of a you know, middle of the
Middle of
road
the pack.
team.
Yep.
So it would actually urge you to really still push to try to get the best of the rest championship, the best of the rest trophy, which is it's a consolation prize in our league. It goes to the ones that don't qualify for the championship playoff. Give you a chance, and then you still have now, mind you, a
Basically,
small.
you're a loser. You're just the best loser out of the losers.
Wouldn't that have been second place?
Well, yeah, you got a point. You got a point.
But anyway, so we've decided to keep going forward with the draft lottery. We also had a vote for a keeper salary cap. That actually was a straight push. Um, so we won't have a salary cap, and that would have just affected, had we had it, that would have just affected keepers. Um, then we also voted on the number of players, which has always been 10, and we voted. It was a push on this one as well. So will going forward, we'll have 10 keepers. We voted on if we were going to add a keeper position. That was shut down. Wait, I guess that never mind that wrong thing. We voted on roster size, and that was voted to keep it at 24 as opposed to raising it to 25. From there, we also voted on scoring, and it was a unanimous vote, essentially, not to change anything in our scoring. Our scoring in our league is with given things. For example, yardage is a point per yard. Touchdowns are 25. I do a whole scoring breakdown in a previous stream. You feel free to check that one out. I think it's actually titled AFL scoring, and I think it was scoring in Hall of Fame. We voted on keeper term limit, which that was shot down, but in meeting it was actually flipped, and this became a rule. We're going to have what's called the 10-10-5 rule. So like I said, we're keeping 10 keepers this year, but what we're going to do is the 10-10 keeper is so for every 2 years will be 10 keepers, and then we'll switch to 5. But we're starting the 5 actually next year. So it'll be next this year's 10, then we're going 5, and then
Which I think is really going to shake up things
oh, it's definitely going to shake a
next
lot
year.
of things up. You know, it's going to bring balance to some of the teams that um, have been struggling for a few years and are fighting to get up there. It's going to bring down the teams that have dynasties, essentially. You know, for example, your Nick Ritz's, 3-time champion, fully loaded team. Ross Carlson, 3 times in the finals, not consecutive, but he's been in the finals 3 times. Um, I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, I've never won it. I've never made the finals, but you could kind of call my team a dynasty. I've won the division 3 times. I've been in the final four twice.
Well, your team was a lot like mine. As far as on paper, it looked really good. You didn't finish dead last, but
Which the funny thing is, Yahoo does a projection after the draft is done. It had his team projected to only lose 1 game the whole year and win it all. And
and I
actually,
went all Detroit Lions 0 and 16.
And the funny thing is, no, you didn't go 0-16. And the funny,
Oh, I did win a game,
you
didn't
went
I?
two.
I won two.
And the funny thing is, I actually had him beating me in the final. So that's Yahoo's projection or prediction that they have whatever formula they come up with. I don't that I'm not privy to, but
Beating him in the finals. Finished dead last. Hence the
so
title
so
Yahoos.
in 2020 we're going to keep 10 keepers. 2021 is 5, 2022 is 10, 2023 is 10, and then 2024 is 5, and then so forth. And then the final thing that we voted on this was if you watch the meeting stream. This one, I don't know how long it actually was, but it went a while. He actually had to leave. It went so long during the quarterback debate. And the way we had going into the meeting, you were allowed only 3 quarterbacks. And at the time of our draft, you could only have 2 quarterbacks. So at the draft, you could, if, let's say you only had 1 quarterback going into the draft, you could draft 1 starting quarterback, and the third quarterback couldn't be a starter. Well, now we've kind of kept that where you can have 2 starting quarterbacks at time of draft / in the draft. Draft a third quarterback. They can't be a starter. But if that quarterback becomes a starter during the year, then you have to drop one of your quarterbacks by the Thursday um, before the Thursday night game. So 5 p.m. Thursday is the number we came up with. So this way, because obviously if you have 3, there's going to be a team that only has um, probably 1 starter.
Now, how did that go with the waiver wire? Wasn't there something said about
No,
possibly going to
we
the
are not having
commissioner?
a waiver wire.
No, okay.
Nope. Uh,
So the fact that you can only have 2 starting, they should be available
right.
if you need one.
Right. But everyone should have 2 quarterbacks. Everyone should have two starting quarterbacks. But there was an exception put into this rule, and that exception is rookies. So if you draft a quarterback that's a rookie and they become a starter during that year, then you theoretically could have 3 starters at any given time. Um, but for example, if you pick up, let's say you have only 2 quarterbacks after the draft, they both are starters, and then you pick up a third quarterback during the middle of the season who is a backup somewhere, and then that backup becomes a starter, then you would have to drop a quarterback. Now, again, but once after their rookie year, you can't retain 3 quarterbacks going into the draft.
Yes, you
So, for
have to.
example,
Yeah.
like let's say you have, in your case, let's say you have Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones, and then you draft, let's say
Joe
Justin
Burrow.
Herbert.
Whatever. Yeah.
And Justin Herbert becomes a starting quarterback for, let's say, the San Diego, wow, the Los Angeles Chargers. You could have the 3 quarterbacks for this year, but because he's a rookie, you could have him. But the second the season of 2020 ends, then he's no longer a starter. You have to decide, I can only keep 2 if I want to keep 2.
Which is actually fine for me because I would rather just have 2 quarterbacks anyway. I personally don't see the need for more than that.
Okay.
As long as you got 2 starters and they're.
So that's all the voting that we had. Anything you want to add to as far as the votes that took place?
No, no. Let's get it going.
All right. So from there, now we're going to look at some upcoming dates. And so obviously, the focus of this one is the NFL free agency. And March 16th, which is what, Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Monday, teams can actually start talking to the available free agents um, as far as negotiating and all that. They can't sign a contract. So, for example, if you hear a rumor of this player going to, so for example, Tom Brady's going to the Seattle Seahawks. You know, the talk is there. He's had discussions, all that good stuff. It's not official until the 18th of March, which is Thursday. So that, and this has happened. I'm not sure if it's ever happened in the NFL. It probably has, but for sure it happened. I know a couple years ago in basketball where a player was fully committed to going to a team. It was DeAndre Jordan was going to go to the Dallas Mavericks, and literally when it came day to sign, he signed with another team. So that is out there. That's why it says, well, they can
Well, we had
negotiate.
coaches do that. If you remember, what was it, last year or the year before? The offensive coordinator for the Patriots. He was going to go to, what was it, Indy? He was verbally committed,
Well,
and
that's
then out
that's a
of nowhere,
coordinator, not a that's different. But yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
But that's a different, it wasn't like he could sign whenever. That wasn't like he had to wait till a certain day. He
Can't
just
they
oh
trade
no,
coaches too?
that one you're right. That one he couldn't sign yet because he was still with he had to wait till the Super Bowl was done to
Yep.
sign, and then after the Super Bowl is when he changed his mind for whatever reason. Um, so there's that, and then we have what April 23 through the
Draft, right?
25th is the NFL draft in Las Vegas, and obviously there's talk up there that things with that could possibly change. I believe the dates are going to stay as they are. The format of the draft may change. Like for
Yeah.
example, they may not do the whole where they have a mass quantity of people watching it in person. They may just do it all from a studio. They may not have the players even
I was
there.
gonna say, who knows how many
You know, if you
may
go
even
back to
show up.
the original NFL drafts up until probably somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, the players weren't even there. It was it wasn't even broadcast till 83.
And they were in a little studio.
And in '83 they were in well, they was it Radio City Music Hall, whatever. But it was all done with no players, so they draft their player, and then the next player would get drafted. But those had a crowd. Um, but then we have that. So then we also have in our league is June 1st. Now June 1st, well actually June 1st is also in the NFL too. That's the like kind of become a cut down day for some veterans. But in June 1st for us is our keeper date. So June 1st is when the keepers have to
Keepers
be
do.
is when they're due to me by 5 p.m. June 1st. And we'll talk later when they're getting announced because in the past it's always been essentially they were announced the next day. And it's gonna probably be a couple days, and we'll explain that here in a minute. And then we have training camps start in the end of July, and then August 6th is the first the Hall of Fame game.
Who's playing it this year?
It just got announced actually this week on Tuesday. It's going to be Dallas versus Pittsburgh, and I will actually be at that game um, as always. This year will be as again going with me. It's going to be Nick Ritz and Dennis Byam. We went again together last year. Nick's gone the last couple of years actually with me. Great time. And then some people might be getting talked about possibly. I might be able to add people next year because next year's the big one. Got Manning and Woodson, possibly who else? Kelvin Johnson.
A couple of no names, third stringers.
Um, and then obviously August 29th is our draft, and that will be streamed. For anyone not here, they can stream it because it did actually go very well. Communication from this stream went very well when it came to voting. I was getting the votes back from Anthony and Rich rather quickly after I announced it and whatever we're voting on. And so from there, then obviously that's the NFL season starts. So that brings us to future streams. And first of all, I want to say, anyone, you're going to probably see a lot of this guy. You're probably going to see a lot of Mark Thompson. There will be others that are going to be invited, but I want to give an open invite. And I'm kind of giving you when they are. Or you can even say, hey, I'd like to be on a broadcast upcoming. And we'll work you in. Everyone's welcome. I mean, I'm not going to put 16 people up here in one time, but anyone's welcome to come join us. We encourage it, and we think it's fun. We enjoy it.
Yep. Good
Um,
time. Good time.
so obviously we have this stream right now going on. April, we're going to do, and now the actual dates aren't confirmed yet, but they will happen before um, the reason we're doing them. So we're going to do a draft preview in April. So it'll happen probably, I'm guessing, the weekend probably before the draft. And like I said, we're going to do a little mini one today, but that will be a more in-depth one where we're actually going to take some of the picks or some of the players up for drafting, and who's ever joins us. That I'm thinking about having actually 4 people for that one. where we're each going to be assigned an NFL team, and we're essentially going to pick for that team from the players that we have available, and then we'll talk about how that maybe works out for fantasy as well. Um, May, probably somewhere mid-May, we're going to do it'll be after Mother's Day. Always got to remember the mothers. We would never take their time or their day. We're going to do an NFL draft recap slash keeper preview. So what we'll do is whoever's in that broadcast, we will sit down beforehand and we'll kind of remember I told you when we had our red carpet event, we had the experts sat down and gave who they thought everyone's keepers. Well, we're going to have our actual panel who's going to be talking to you, and we'll come up with our thoughts on everyone's possible keepers. Now, obviously, these are our thoughts on who, or essentially, these are who we would keep if we were that team. Um, from there, we go to June. So June 1st is the keeper due date. So it's either going to be June 4th, which is a Friday, or June 5th. We're going to do a keeper stream. So they'll actually be this broadcast. And I've kind of come up with a fun way how to do it. I don't know if this guy, anyone who's been here original, will remember how we used to do the keepers originally. Do you remember how we used to do them the first year? I'll refresh his memory.
We'd write them down, right? On a
Well, we
card,
wrote it
hand them
down,
in.
but the way we did it was I actually had, and it's going to be a change. It's not going to be completely like this, but originally what I did was I had, so for example, Jimmy's team. So it'd be time to do Jimmy's team. So I would have a video play of his entire final roster at the end of the year.
Oh
And then
yeah,
Jimmy would come up and he would read off who his, well, at the time it was five keepers because the very first year we only kept five. But it would have been
that's
10.
right.
I think then it was 10 the following year. And then we also did actually theme music with that, if I recall, which loved his theme song. But anyways, the second year I did it, and this will be more the variant of how it's going to
Go
be.
figure. The DJ in the league is not allowed to pick the music.
The way we'll probably do it is I'm going to actually have the TV. So where we're sitting right now will be flip flopped, and we'll be facing the television behind us. So we'll be doing our stream like this, and then when it's time to announce the keepers, we're going to turn the camera towards the TV, and I'll have a video for each team, and it'll show you'll see their 10 players will pop up on the TV, and then who's ever here for that panel, we'll talk about
Which
that.
means I won't be here because I'm gonna get some bullshit music that I don't like. Oh, sorry. Sorry, you two. My bad.
We don't condone that kind of language.
We totally condone it. We condone it.
Not on our streams though. We are a family-friendly organization. Anyways,
Again, I will not be here for the ridiculous music.
there won't be music. Don't worry, I won't do music. Um, anyway, so then in July we're going to do a AFL draft preview. So at this point, keepers have all been announced. NFL, they're starting their training camps. So what we'll do then is we're going to break down essentially um, how we think the AFL draft could possibly go. Um, and then obviously our draft is going to be August 29th, and we will have a red carpet event before that one as well, just like we did. And that's going to be something going forward. League draft and league meetings will always have the red carpet events, and hopefully, as we do this more often, we'll get more people that want to. Maybe they'll come a little bit earlier, and we can actually get them on the
Yeah,
hot
get some
seat
of the other
because the hot
guys in
seat,
here. So get on here. You know, share their knowledge.
yeah, give their voice of what they think is going on, and maybe try to get a little insight of what they're going to pick for the draft. So then after the draft, so this will either be because obviously to the 29th, that's late, so it's going to be just before the NFL season starts. So it'd probably be midweek. We're going to do a draft recap slash um, AFL NFL season preview. So we'll look at how we think, how do the teams draft, and then how do we think the NFL season is going to go. And that'll be, like I said, I marked late August, early September, but it's going to pretty much end up being early September because I don't think we're going to do it on the 31st. I mean, we got like 2 days to
Yeah,
get it
right,
out.
right.
Um, because I want to have some thought going in. Because like for example, like we were gonna have Mark on this. I sent these guys a week early some of the material that we were gonna cover in this, so they had it in their thought of what they wanted to discuss and all that kinds of good stuff. And then once we're in season, and this might just be me, but every week it probably will just be me unless someone wants to come. Because during the middle of the week, I'm gonna probably do a weekly review slash, I like the word slash apparently, slash upcoming week preview.
Well,
So
which would be cool,
right,
but might be tough for
we'll
some of the guys to get there every week.
right, and like I said, I'll probably have to do it on a Wednesday anyways. Um, so we'll just look back at how the games went the previous weekend, and then look at the upcoming games for the following week. Um, talk about any possible injuries that took place or any big trades that may have taken place. And then that's all streams. Like I said, we're gonna do the red carpet because I think that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that.
It was a good time. It
You
really
know,
was.
I mean, I'll admit, watching the meeting portion probably wasn't the most exciting thing, but understand the meeting portion was essentially for those who weren't here. Or it was also, I guess, you could also use it as a way to document what was discussed and all that. And we'll
Like
do
how
the
much of
same.
a crook he is.
Oh, geez.
We'll talk about that later.
And we're gonna do the same thing for the draft. Even if we had all 16 owners here, we'd still probably broadcast it. We will broadcast it because this way of something cool might happen during the draft or whatever, and we got it for all times. And there may be someone, and we hope there's someone out there that watches us and says, I like their draft, I like their league, or hey, I never thought about drafting that guy in the first round, or
Exactly.
I never thought about taking that guy in the third round.
We will broadcast it because we're football nerds, and there's more of you out there like us, and you need to see this.
And plus, I'm the fantasy commissioner. We do it in my house, and I guess I kind of decide what
Calls
goes
the
with.
shots,
Yeah.
makes the rules as he goes along.
So that's all our future streams that are planned for. Oh, and then of course, like I said, then in January, and that the date for our league meeting for 2021 will be announced at the draft. That of course will be in January. Just the actual date hasn't been confirmed yet. Just the number date hasn't been confirmed yet, but the month will be January. So right now I want to move on to doing a quick rookie preview. And I got here, we have quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. And we're just going to essentially, we'll just go right down. We'll start with the quarterbacks. Sorry, as I stand up here. Um, and we'll just briefly talk about them. Um, so first, quarterback Joe Burrow, expected to be the first overall pick in the NFL draft.
The most talked about, definitely.
I don't think the Bengals can go wrong drafting him. I mean, I personally, unless they're gonna trade down a few slots and get other picks, I mean, they're almost foolish to
Which would
not
be an
take him.
interesting move if they did that, because everybody's already expecting them to take Joe Burrow anyway.
But the Bengals are in a situation where it wouldn't be a horrible decision actually to trade out of that pick and move down. I mean, they need a lot. They need to change a lot of stuff.
I
That.
saw a mock draft where somebody was talking about they think they should take Chase Young because in order for a rookie quarterback to come in
Mhm.
and really make a difference, you need the piece.
But the one
Saying
nice,
defense should have been first.
but they also have an established quarterback in Andy Dalton, so they could theoretically take him, let him sit for a year. Now, I'm gonna let you guys know I am horrible with some names, so I may slaughter names, and I apologize. I really do. Um, Maybe I'm not the best at announcing things in the English language. I don't know, but I look at names and I slaughter them. So Tua Taila, oh geez, say it.
Okay, who we got here?
Tua from Alabama,
Yeah, Tua from
quarterback,
Alabama. There you go.
lefty. Um, Now he's obviously a lot of people are talking about him going. There was a rumor him going to the Lions, which I think that's been squashed.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Um,
I think
which
it makes
personally
sense.
I actually thought it wasn't a horrible idea if I was the Lions, because I'll tell you this: if I was the Lions, what I would have done is considered taking that pick, drafting him third overall, and seeing if the Chargers would have been willing to take Stafford for their first overall pick. Then they would have had the first or the third overall pick taking Tua, and then they would have had the what is it, fifth overall pick? or the 6th overall pick, wherever the Chargers are actually fall.
I don't know if I'm a fan of taking a quarterback in the first round. Period.
If you're sold on him being a future, I mean, the one thing you want to do with, and I'm not saying get rid of Stafford at all. I mean, he's still an elite quarterback. But what I'm saying is the Lions aren't necessarily a player away. They're several players away.
True.
And by the time that they might get these players, Stafford's going to be on the decline. He's going to be older. He's gotten hurt. Um, that's just my thought. But obviously, where he's projected to go is the Miami Dolphins. Now, um,
Really, Dolphins, huh?
yeah. And, you hear, well, remember originally they kept saying tanking for Tua?
Hmm.
That was before Joe Burrow was on the scene. But and obviously, everyone knows he's a Lions fan. It's pretty evident. But I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. Been a Miami Dolphins fan all my life,
Ever since
and
Ace Ventura.
no longer than that. Actually, the first year I started watching football was '85, and the year after they went to the Super Bowl. So I've never seen them in a Super Bowl. Of all my favorite teams, well, I take that back. Of all my favorite teams, there's only two I've never seen in a championship game, and or the big championship game. I've seen them all in the conference championship game because I've seen. So my favorite teams are this. My favorite teams are the Lakers. See them obviously win several championships. Ohio State for all college sports.
Never won anything.
Seen them win some championships, of
Never.
course. Seen them beat the pants off that team up north. Uh, for hockey, I like the Penguins of Pittsburgh. Seen them win a few
They got a couple.
championships. But then the Dolphins, obviously, I've never seen them in the Super Bowl. And for baseball, it's the Pirates. I've never seen them in a World Series. I saw them in the conference, so for the pennant, but I've never seen them actually in the World Series itself. Um, so that's the big thing, him going there. So, anyways, where I'm going with this is, as a Dolphins fan, I personally don't want them to take Tua. I would rather them take something else and then maybe take another quarterback as they go on. I'd rather either them take the best offensive lineman available or take the best defensive player available. But I'm personally not sold on Tua. He's a talented quarterback, but he's gotten hurt and he has under pressure made turnovers. And you like Alabama. I mean,
They're kind of like the New England of college, sort of.
am I speaking the truth on that? I mean,
Sure.
he's made
Yeah.
he sometimes if he's kind of like in a way like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, for all the great things that people say about Tom Brady, there is an Achilles heel to him. And if you put pressure on him, if you get to him and touch him,
Yeah. No, that's
he
true.
will
That's
make a
true.
lot of turnovers, and it's a proven fact. The problem is just teams aren't getting to him. I mean, I can tell you this: I've seen some of my Dolphins teams that have been horrible teams actually got to him, and he threw turnovers.
So don't you think if Miami had a good offensive line, that might change some of that?
As I said, I think they need to go and then get because there are plenty of good quarterbacks in this draft. So that's Tua. Do you want to say anything about Tua?
No. No. Go ahead.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our third rated quarterback at this time on March 14th, 2020 is Justin Herbert of Oregon. Now, he's an interesting one because he would have been the first quarterback taken in last year's draft. Uh, but he decided to come back for one more year.
You have Shea Patterson, LOL.
We'll get to that in a second, ladies and gentlemen. But Justin Herbert probably would have been the first overall pick last
I
year.
didn't watch a lot of Oregon, so I really don't know about this guy. Honestly,
He's a solid quarterback.
okay. Where's he projected to go?
I've heard as high as the Chargers, and
Okay.
I've heard as late as the Colts. So he will go. I mean, if he doesn't go in the top 10, he won't go far after the top 10. From there, then this one. Now I don't know a lot about this guy, but he's really risen up in the draft boards is Jordan Love
Yeah,
out
same.
of Utah State. Now I've heard him going to the Chargers as well, and I've heard him going to the Chargers. I think I've heard him going to the Jaguars. I've heard him going to the Colts. Um,
So the Colts don't want to chance Brissett, huh?
nah, if they keep Brissett, he may be the starter to start, but they're taking a quarterback in this draft in this first round.
Hmm.
Um, Now we're gonna get down to the guys that um, the next two potentially could be first round picks. If they were, they'd be late first round picks. More than likely, they're going to be second, third round picks. Jacob Eason of Washington, and again, I don't watch a lot of Pac-12 football.
Exactly.
I've seen a little bit of him. I mean, he's been in,
Isn't he like the second coming to Gardner Minshew or whatever his name is?
he's decent quarterback. He's got a pretty good arm on him, but and then now the other one, the next quarterback, I do like. And personally, I see him as a first round grade. I've talked to some other people who don't, and they're not fans of this guy, and that's Jacob Fromm of Georgia.
And he's projected to go where?
Um, Late first round, more than likely second round, possibly could actually fall to the third.
So who's looking at him?
Um, Whoever doesn't need a starting quarterback.
Point.
I mean, right now they're not projecting him. I like the guy personally. That doesn't mean that he's a franchise quarterback. I would take him as and be comfortable with him as my backup to start with the potential of being a franchise quarterback. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm. He's more of a I don't want to lump him in Alex Smith, but I could look at him as more of a game manager.
That is Alex Smith, though.
Right, I know. But I don't want to lump him necessarily. I don't want to say he's a game manager. Um, he's not someone that's going to be a gunslinger. Let's just put it that way. And then we got in here Jalen
From
Hurts.
Oklahoma.
He obviously
Was with Bama at
was a
first.
Bama quarterback, and then obviously Tua came into his own, so he transferred to still get after Kyler Murray went to the NFL, and he got 1 year, was up for the Heisman this year.
Yep.
Um, if he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL is a question.
I believe he got injured at Bama, didn't he? And then he started playing. He wasn't playing
He
great.
got injured. Well, he got no. It didn't start when he got pulled. When they went
He lost twice to
it was
Clemson,
Tua's
right?
freshman year. He got pulled, and then Tua took him to the championship, and then the next year he helped him.
No, see, I thought Jalen Hurts, he had a good run with Bama. Then he
He
started
did,
playing
but
bad.
they
Like
never
he
won it.
lost to Clemson
They
twice in
never
the
won with him
national
as
title,
the
right?
as the champion. They never
No, they didn't win with him.
right. And then Tua came into his own, and he just kind of took over. And he played now when they lost to Clemson the previous year. He was in that championship game,
Yep.
if I
Yep.
remember. But and he actually kept him in because they got behind, and he almost brought him back to win it.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna say, wasn't there one of those games he either came in
Tua
late
got hurt.
or he was taken out?
Well, Tua got hurt, so he had to come in.
Okay.
And then obviously I did put up here because this guy's
I'll be right back.
a Michigan homer that, as we like to say from Ohio State, the Ohio State University, uh, that team up north. But Shea Patterson, and I just put this as a joke because, well, Shea Patterson is probably XFL Canadian bound, I'm sure. I mean, he could end up somewhere as a developmental quarterback, I guess. There was a lot of people high on him when he transferred um, from, if I recall, it was Alabama he transferred from. But um, so from there, we're going to move on to our running backs, and I'm going to try to talk slowly on this one because I want to get his feedback on some of these running backs. But in this draft, and that's the one position in our draft specifically that is needed, are good young running backs. And on this list, I got eight running backs down. I'm going to go out there and say 5 of these are potential starters in the NFL. Um, Sorry, my sidekick had to walk away here. I wish I'd like to get his input on what I'm saying right now. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the names while he's gone. and we'll come back. So we have DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins. Not in necessarily that order. I guarantee you, in our draft, those should be picks 1, 2, and 3, and not necessarily in that order. Um, Now, as far as in the NFL draft, how these guys are going to go, there's been talk about Swift going in the first round, Taylor possibly first round. I've heard Dobbins second round. So there's those three. And then you have the next two are also going to be first round picks in our draft. At least should be. Zach Moss from Utah and Cam Akers from Florida State. Now, Zach Moss is another one I don't know a lot about. Um, Cam Akers I've seen a little bit of. I, he's got potential to be a game breaker, I think. Complete package. And then the other three are Anthony McFarland of Maryland, who actually, if you follow the NFL, is actually Booger McFarland's son. And then we have Keyshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt. Don't know a lot about this kid, but he's ranked high. And another one, he wasn't ranked as highly as these guys. I actually moved him up, and that's LaMichael Perine of Florida. So I just went through, I just named off the running backs in this draft, some of the big ones. And I put there's potentially in our draft 5 first round picks here. DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, unquestionably top 3 picks in our draft.
J.K. Dobbins.
I mean, they will be. And like I said, not necessarily in that order. J.K. Dobbins could go first. Swift could fall to 3. Who knows? Um, and then also in our draft, I don't think they'll fall 4 and 5. I think, and I don't want to get too much into our draft, speculation right now. I see three running backs going, then I see 2 receivers, and then we'll go from there. And potentially these could be the picks 6 and 7. Zach Moss of Utah. I
Saved by
gave a
the
little
Bell
shout out
fans.
to Saved by the Bell, a little Mark Paul Gossler right there, and Cam Akers of Florida State. Both should be first round picks in our draft. Um, where these guys fall in the NFL, definitely second round at the latest, maybe late second round. I don't see any of these 5 going past the third. Um, Anthony McFarland, I've seen a little bit of him. Um, he's a good running back. I don't know, if he's gonna be a franchise guy. He'll get picked, probably early, depending where he goes in our draft. Maybe not first round, but potentially I'd say second, third at the latest in our
But
draft.
for all these backs, they need to go to a team with a good offensive line, especially with them being rookies coming into the NFL, because that's what really matters when you are running back is your offensive line. You have your few out there, your Le'Veon Bells, you know what I mean, your Marshawn Lynch's, Zeke, who can probably go to any team and flourish. But well, no, we didn't. I think we
Um,
talked about Derrick Henry already, but or did we not?
well, that's the free agent part. We're not talking.
Jumping ahead of
This is
myself.
rookies. These guys aren't even in the NFL yet. And so next we get the receivers, and I see potentially, I'm going to say 5 first round picks in our draft on this list. And in the NFL draft, I see potentially 4, if not also 5 NFL first round picks here. So we're going to start with CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma. Now I've actually heard that Kyler Murray is actually making a pitch to get him to Arizona.
We got chemistry to play together, right?
Yep. But I see now here, I'm gonna say this. So CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy of Alabama. In my opinion, these guys are going to be 4 and 5 in our draft.
There was a mock draft saying Jerry Jeudy was going to go to Detroit.
Really.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy is a phenomenal wide receiver. I actually, if you ask me how to rank these, I actually put Jeudy above Lamb, but that's how I would do it. And then we have Henry Ruggs, also of Alabama. Should definitely be a first round pick in the NFL. Should also be a first round pick in our draft. So these guys are harder to project where they're going to go because now we're talking in the NFL draft receivers. Well, with exception of maybe a Judy you're talking and CeeDee Lamb. The rest of these guys, if they are a first round, these could fall over the place because you never know how the draft's going to go. A team that might not even need a wide receiver might take one of these guys because they look at it as an upgrade from what they got, or, well, hey, we got We got Julio Jones. We got Kelvin Ridley. We might as well add a third Alabama receiver.
And for our league, the way our scoring is, I think where these guys go in the NFL, it can change everything.
Okay.
When you find out, oh, he's got so and so throwing to him, that may mean less points for us now if I draft this guy, or more, depending on what team they go with.
I know. But that being said, you send Jerry Jeudy, let's say you send Jerry Jeudy to um, Atlanta, where he's got Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley.
How much time is he going to get?
How much time is he going to get? But he also could get a lot of production because they're all going to be targeting the other two to cover the other two. So then, like I said, we got Henry Ruggs. So then we go to the next one, which should be a first round pick, is T. Higgins at Clemson.
Well, back to your point, what you just said, Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. By that theory, he should have gotten more looks, I think, this past year. He started to do pretty well towards the end, I think. But
Bad example only because of the quarterback situation.
Oh, because Ben
I
wasn't
mean,
in there.
right.
You had a rookie.
Ben got hurt,
Okay.
and then it was
All
like
right.
a revolving door. I mean, you had Mason Rudolph, you had was it Hodges?
Yep.
I think they had one more. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting. For all you Steeler fans, don't throw your terrible towels at me.
Was it Troy Aikman?
No.
Oh wait, no, he beat
Wow.
them, right?
Now they're gonna throw their terrible towels at you. So then we have the receiver, and I from Colorado, Chenault. I don't know a lot about him, but they had him ranked actually as the fifth receiver on here. I want to jump to the next guy, who I think will be a first-round pick in the NFL, and I think will be a first-round pick in our draft, and that's Justin Jefferson of LSU. This guy, I look at him. I look at also he's coming out next year, but what's the guy last name? Your brother down in LSU, Chase. What's his first name? I can't think of his first name. Sorry. Supposed to be the fantasy commissioner, and I'm forgetting information.
Receiver?
Yeah, the receiver down in LSU, last name of Chase. It's not Jimmy, I know that. Anyways, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he put on, if I remember, he put a clinic on in the championship game, didn't he?
Well, that whole team did.
But this kid's a deep.
LSU was just dominant this
This
season.
kid's a deep threat. You can give him any. If their quarterback can throw down the field, give him Justin Jefferson. It's going to be probably 7 points, 6 points. Sorry, depending on the extra point would be 7. From there we got. I'm just going to cut a couple. Tyler Johnson from Minnesota, which a lot of people might not know about this kid. We should because obviously we're Big Ten fans. Minnesota had a really good year this year, and this kid was a big reason why. And he's not on a lot of radars, but I see this kid, and he's not going to be a first-round pick in the NFL. Probably won't be even a second-round pick in the NFL.
Skip Donovan People, huh?
Oh, he's on there. You got Donovan People-Jones from that team up north, but Tyler Johnson is a deep threat. He'll make plays. He's fast. He's someone that I would be eyeballing if you need to add a young receiver for depth. Because I think he's going to start off in the league. Like I said, he's going to be a mid to late round pick, but wherever he goes, he's going to make impact. That's just my opinion. And we're going to close this out really quick here because I think we spent too much time on this. But with the tight ends, I only got 5 listed. Don't know a lot about all of them. I know the Cole Kemet from Notre Dame should be the first tight end taken off the board.
Is he the best one in the draft this year?
He would be the second tight end I would look at, but I see potential for him to, if he goes now, he's one. If he goes to the right situation, he's not going to be like a Rob Gronkowski where he's gonna or a Travis Kelce or anything like that. But I could see him, in the right situation, he could definitely get some catches.
Well, it's like T.J. Hawkinson.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the number 1 tight end last year, wasn't he? So that's
Yeah. But this is the next one is who I think is going to be the big dog as far as tight ends and who I would look at in not only the NFL draft. Now he has some growing to do in the NFL, maybe with route running and that kind of stuff, but makes it up for in talent, and that's Thaddeus Moss.
LSU's got some
And
beasts
that
coming
name
out
better
this
look
year, man.
familiar because that's Randy's
They got some
kid.
monsters coming out this year.
So I would look at him as someone I would even look at him for my team as my second, possibly second tight end, if not my first tight end, depending who I keep. And we have,
You got the third overall pick, correct?
well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yes, I do because I traded up for it. But like I said, we'll cover
Stole it.
trades. We got Bryson Hopkins from Purdue, Jared Pinkney from Vanderbilt, and Hunter Bryant from Washington. Now, Hunter Bryant actually had a really good combine. I think if he wasn't the fastest tight end, he was the second fastest tight end, I believe. He put up some good numbers, and I remember he and Eason actually had some pretty good. I did see a few Washington games, not a lot, but he and Eason, that was kind of his one of his go-to guys. Um, Anything you want to add about the rookie preview?
You know what? I think the combine focuses, and I talked to this buddy at work. I think the combine focuses too much on numbers. Again, I know she brought up the numbers, which I mean, yeah, it's good and all, but there's look at the players on there who don't necessarily have the numbers that these other guys do, and then they go to the NFL and become successful, or they
Like I've
play
always,
successful.
and I agree with everything you're saying right now. And I've always believed, personally, I don't like how they do the combine. Like you said, too much is weighed on 40 time. Too much is weighed on vertical leap. At the end of the day, I'm looking at the tape. Either the kid can play or he can't. Just because, first of all, if you're going to do the 40-yard dash, put a helmet, put shoulder pads, put the full uniform on the kids because they're not running out there in track shorts and a t-shirt in the NFL. They have all this equipment on.
Yeah,
So now
no,
you're not getting
that's
a
a good
true.
point.
I don't believe you're getting a true valuation. You're just getting there's what you call track speed and there's football speed, and they're not the same thing. For example, take Carl Lewis. I mean, for a while was the fastest human, or Usain Bolt, fastest. One of the fast. You put him on the NFL, it's not going to be the same. He's not going to be running the same speed he's running on a track.
No.
He's got all this equipment on.
Yep.
Which is going to weigh him down. I mean, some of these guys are still pulling, like in the NFL, they have what's it called, the next gen stats, where they're pulling out sometimes 20 miles an hour or something, or
Right, right.
I think 25 one time. And I mean, obviously that's going fast, but think about it. If they had that, with when they're doing the 40-yard dash, I mean, if they're doing 25 miles an hour with all that stuff on, were they going to do 30 miles an hour with nothing
Yeah.
on? I mean,
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. I would like to see them institute that. Like, okay, get fully dressed.
and
Now you run, less time you.
and also especially with wide receivers, okay, let's break down here. So you take your offensive lineman. Your offensive lineman, who cares what their 40-yard time is? Because most of them aren't going to be getting out they're not going to be running 40 yards down the field in front of a running back. You know, I mean, if they are, then they're.
Does that really have anything to do with how quick you get off the line? I
I
mean,
mean, I'd rather just see. Yeah, for me, I'd rather just see if they do the. I'd rather see their 40 time on the first 10 yards or the first 5 yards, because that's what's going to judge what a. I mean, and actually the offensive lineman maybe is a bad example because especially in today's NFL, they're not necessarily firing off the ball. They're firing back off the ball because they're going to pass protection. So you're not going forward, you're going backwards. Where if it was running play, obviously you are going forward. Your defensive ends are the ones that are I want to know what their off the ball speed is. I don't, if they can obviously track down. Well, I guess defense ends are different. Defensive ends, I do want to know what their top out speed is. But a defensive tackle, I just want to know what their off the ball speed is because I want to know if they can jump, if they can snap, and then they can shoot the gap past that lineman. And stuff either run or cause some havoc and eat up some blocks. So
what about your defensive backs too? If you got your fastest receiver on there, and this guy's got to chase him down and beat him.
right, yeah, and that's another one. Do this, instead of actually that's a great have them do, instead of doing a straight 40-yard dash, have them start in a back pedal and then turn into a 40-yard dash. Don't have them start at a stopping point.
I bet you see a lot of different numbers
Yeah, you
if,
would.
if they did
But like I
that.
said, I think just you put the equipment on them alone would make a difference. But
Side note, I think they said John Ross still holds the was it 40-yard dash?
Yeah, I don't remember what the actual number was. It was a four.
I don't know the number either,
Was
but
it
I remember seeing that
415 or
across my
something?
feed a
I don't
couple
know. It was
weeks ago.
some. But look at, and there's someone you took in your. I remember you took him his rookie year. You took him in the first
I
round,
did. I did. I
and
kept him
and
for
and the
three
thing
years.
is, the kid did produce at Washington.
Yeah.
He wasn't a horrible wide receiver, but he wasn't like what everyone because his
Well,
40
they were
yard.
predicting him to. He was supposed to be the next big thing
Yeah,
when he came out, and I think I kept him for 3 years.
yeah.
3 years, and I tried to trade Jordan him, and he didn't want to trade, and I ended up dropping him. Somebody picked him up, and of course, last year I think he actually did decent.
Yeah. No, he did, but he also has had an injury problem. And
That's
that's
yeah,
something
no,
else
yeah,
that you
that's
got to take
true.
into consideration when you're
Yep.
drafting these people is, like, for example, like Tua. I mean, Tua's coming off like a major leg injury.
Right. So we know that, but was John Ross, was he injured prone like that in Washington?
That I don't know. That I don't remember. Like I said, I saw a few of the. I think I probably bowl game, and maybe occasionally I saw a Pac-12 game at because they come in really late at night. But I remember seeing him make some big plays. I mean, obviously these guys make big plays. But like I said, Tyler Johnson, I was talking about from Minnesota.
Right.
I mean, if you go take the highlight reel of this kid, you're going to say he's one of the best receivers in this draft and he needs to go in the first round. So you can't just look at the highlight. You got to actually look at the actual game footage. You got to understand who are they going against as a defensive back? Who's their quarterback? What kind of I mean, there's so much that goes
Yep.
into it that just because this guy can do a, okay, the guy he can go at a 45-inch vertical.
But even if you look at all that footage that you're talking about, it would definitely help. But I don't think it eliminates the fact that with college you're dealing with a lot of men amongst boys type situations. In the NFL, they're all just as big, fast, strong as you are.
Right. But like when I was talking about the vertical, so let's say the kid can jump 45, 46-inch vertical, which I don't know what the highest you can jump is. Like most people, what great jumps are, but I'm just throwing that out as a number. Um, there's a difference between standing still and then jumping up and trying to reach these little tabs or whatever they
Yep.
are to knock them in to see your height.
Yep.
And there's a compared to doing the same thing when you possibly because have like one or two other guys right next to you jumping up with you to try to deflect or intercept the ball. So that's something that
Yep.
maybe when they do these verticals, have someone else next to them
Yeah.
to show what it would look like
Yeah.
because you're not gonna you might be a little timid going up. And again, put the equipment on them because I guarantee your jump times might look different because there's extra weight on them.
And you have somebody simulating trying to stop you or intercept. I like that. I mean, I think,
You know,
yeah, I like that.
and just because you can jump, let's say you can jump. Let's say, I mean, obviously I'm throwing it. Let's say you could jump 100 feet. Okay, that doesn't mean you're going to catch the ball either. I mean,
Right?
shouldn't
Right on.
shouldn't be the ability to catch the ball come before how high the guy can jump?
Right? Yeah.
So that's our little rookie preview. Like I said, it'll be way more in depth. There'll be a lot more thought put into this. This was a last minute kind of added piece to this, just some food for thought out there because we had the combine just happen. So now I want to move into a breakdown of some of the trades that have happened, and we're going to do these right in order because sometimes the order of how they happen actually affects other trades. So I don't have the actual dates of when these took place. If that's I apologize. Maybe I should have had that on there. But we're going to start with our very first
I
trade,
may be able to help you with that.
um, which obviously everyone in our league knows about these. But I'm kind of telling this to you outsiders out there who are maybe just watching this or trying to, what's a good trade? Now, before I talk about this, I do want to say this. I've done trades in our league, and I sometimes do some of the more um, big trades, you could say, and I usually give up a lot. And my philosophy with trading, this is just my philosophy. I want to hear his in a second. My philosophy, I have a couple. I have number one, if there's a player you really, really want, do what you got to do to get that player. Actually, Bill Walsh, that was actually Bill Walsh's mentality when he drafted Dwight Clark. I don't know if you know the story or not, but Dwight Clark they were actually looking at the quarterback from, was it, he actually went to Clemson, I believe. And they were looking at quarterback Steve Fuller in the '79 draft, and they needed some. And Dwight Clark actually answered it. They're like, "Oh, are you?" He's like, "Yep, I was his receiver." And they're like, "Well, would you be willing to come and catch for him?" Sure. So he went and they watched him catch. Well, they actually fell more in love with him as a receiver than they did Steve Fuller as a quarterback. And Fuller ended up going to the Chiefs as a rookie. Um, but a lot of the people on his team, or a lot of the members of the 49ers organization, said to Bill Walsh, "You realize you can get this guy after the draft." And he's like, "He's going to be a San Francisco 49er, and we're going to draft him." And they did. They drafted him in the draft, and he ended up, being an all-time great for the 49ers. I mean, he, in a lot of ways, was very responsible for that franchise having its success, for having its dynasty. If the catch doesn't happen, that dynasty doesn't take off.
Hmm.
I mean, there was actually talk. I don't know if you know this or not. There was talk after, because '81 the Niners obviously broke out, won the whole thing. '82 they didn't do so hot, and going into '83 draft, it was actually talked about trading Joe Montana to the team that had the first overall pick, which was at the time the Baltimore Colts, for the rights to John Elway.
Really?
And John Elway's actually gone on record and saying that he would have loved that and he would have hated that, because obviously what an opportunity to go play for Bill Walsh, to have the prospects of having Jerry Rice as a receiver, having Dwight Clark, having Roger Craig as your running back, having all the great defensive players that the 49ers had in the 80s. But the pressure, because Montana had just won a championship 2 years prior. So all the Niners fans were like, well, why did we trade away this guy that just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago for this
It's
rookie?
logical.
There's a lot of, so there would have been a lot of pressure, and Bill Walsh, I think it would have been a great fit, but that's
Well,
that.
now is John Elway the same John Elway if that happens? It was kind of like Tom Brady, 6 rings. Is he the same Tom Brady if he's drafted to another team? I mean, if the Detroit Lions drafted Tom Brady,
I'm
is he the
sure a lot of
same?
people
I
are going.
don't think so.
I think a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this. You're not. That's a bad comparison. And the reason I say that is Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady coming out of college. John Elway was essentially expected to become what he was. John Elway was. I don't know if they ever said he was a Hall of Famer coming out of college, but John Elway was expected to be.
Okay, I see. He was a
I mean,
name where they were saying Tom Brady's like, no,
no,
he's lanky. He's not quick enough. He's
you're a
not.
Michigan fan. In all honesty, think about it. He struggled. I mean, he wasn't even the starting quarterback for the whole time, because you
Yeah, it
remember the
wasn't.
Drew Henson
Yeah,
stuff.
it was. Everybody's looking at Drew Henson. They
Right.
weren't.
It
It wasn't
wasn't
Tom
like Tom
Brady.
Brady was like this miraculous stud that like was like tearing college football up. He was. I mean, I'll say this, and obviously, like we said, it all depends on where you go. Tom Brady goes to Cleveland Browns. Let's say, obviously, it wouldn't have happened, but let's say he would have been the first overall pick in that draft, and he would have went to the Cleveland Browns. He's not in the league anymore,
Agreed.
you know.
Agreed.
And if John Elway would have stayed with the team that drafted him, which was the Baltimore Colts, he may not have had the same career he had, but the talent was still there, and they could have still built around that and made, there was enough to he would have been starter day one for the Baltimore Colts in 1983.
Okay.
Whereas Tom
Fair enough.
Brady, Tom Brady got a break because Bledsoe got hurt. If Bledsoe doesn't get hurt, Brady doesn't play that year.
Good point.
I could be wrong on
No,
that.
no.
I
Good
mean,
point.
obviously you
Good
never
point.
know, but I don't see Brady playing that year. And Bledsoe may have, Brady may have been a backup for a while. But, you know, for whatever reason, obviously they had the success. They won that Super Bowl, and then Belichick said, "Well, I want to go with him. I'm going to send this guy
No,
away."
that's a good point because actually wasn't didn't John Elway threaten to go play baseball because the
Yeah.
Chargers wanted him and he
Oh
didn't want
yeah.
to play for the Chargers?
Yep. Oh, there was.
So if you got teams that want him and he's like, well, I don't want to play for you, so I'm going to leave. That says a lot about
There are so many
your
places
talent
that
level.
Elway would have went. The problem is, and there's a documentary. It's a very good one. I recommend watching it. It's called 30 for 30, which is an ESPN series, from Elway to Marino, and it talks about the first round of that draft. and it literally breaks it down pick by pick, shows where they went, what they became, and it starts obviously Elway got picked, and there was a process of how they were going to trade him, and they wanted to be traded, so everyone was cool with it, and then the general manager is like, well, he's the greatest prospect I've ever seen, which he is still looked at as the greatest prospect ever seen until possibly next year's draft. The next John Elway, the equal to the prospect, comes out next year, and his name's um, Lawrence from Clemson, the quarterback for Clemson,
Okay.
David Lawrence. He's looked at as the biggest prospect since John Elway. But we'll move on from there. Anyway, so
I know we got off on a
we
tangent.
way went off.
So trade, right? So you're going down
here's
the line
our
in
trade.
order?
So our very first trade
Was made on February 18th.
February 18th. So we had new team, new owner to the league. Tony Mize took over Patrick Lane's team. He traded away his first. I'm sorry. He traded away tight end Mark Andrews and the 5th overall pick in the 2020 draft to defending champion Nick Ritz for quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, running back Todd Gurley, and the 16th overall pick in the 2020 draft. So now we're gonna talk about that trade.
Okay.
What are your
You know,
thoughts?
Ritz is a smart guy, and it makes me wonder what he's up to because that guy knows what he's doing, and like that was a really good trade for Tony, I think, as far as his team. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, Todd Gurley, Adam Thielen, these are all known names, and they do well. And the 16th overall pick. Nick walks away with tight end Mark Andrews, who was a beast last year, by the way, and his 5th overall pick.
Well,
So who's Ritz eyeballing?
oh, I guarantee it's one of those receivers, unless he's hoping one of the running backs falls. But they're not gonna. I mean, you have pick 2 and you have pick 4.
Should I pick one? But whatever.
No, I'm just saying. For example, like
Yeah,
let's say let me put it to you this way. Let's play a little hypothetical thing here. So let's say J.K. Dobbins goes first overall.
Okay.
Okay. So then you have the potential of taking either Jonathan Taylor or DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
So let's say you take Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
Then I have the next pick at 3. And then I say, well, I'm going to go receiver. So I take Jerry Jeudy. You're telling me you're going to let DeAndre Swift go past 4?
I don't know. We'll see.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, but right now, you got to pick it right now. If DeAndre Swift is sitting there at 4, you're going to let him go?
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not.
So he knows he's probably getting one of these receivers. So he's either eyeballing Jerry Jeudy or he's eyeballing CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he's
Still quite a trade. I mean, Tony really made out.
Well,
I mean,
you got to understand.
at the same time, if Ritz was willing to say, "You can have all this, I want this,"
the team he inherited, there was pieces, but there was, he really needed to grow it, and this is giving him. Now he's got an option at quarterback. He doesn't even have to draft a quarterback in our draft if he doesn't want to, because he's got Kirk Cousins.
Ritz does. Ritz has him.
No, Tony has Kirk Cousins.
Who does Ritz have?
The quarterback, he's got Stafford, so he'll have to take a quarterback unless he trades for one.
Okay.
Going in, he'll have to,
Okay.
he'll have Stafford, and then he'll have to probably draft one of the rookies.
Yep.
I mean, I guess he could be eyeballing. I mean, maybe he's eyeballing Joe Burrow at 5. I don't know. I think he's going for a receiver, but he could go for Burrow too. And in the past he's put Stafford up for trading too.
He gave up Adam Thielen, who was
and
definitely
that's a
starter,
bonus.
number one.
Think about it. That's a bonus to Tony because he's got Kirk Cousins as his quarterback.
Oh, right. Right.
And then obviously Todd Gurley. You don't know necessarily what you're getting with Todd Gurley. You could get a stud. You're going to get a production out of Todd Gurley. There's no question about that. Are you going to get the production that took him to a Super Bowl? Don't know. But he's not. He's going to produce, and Tony's going to reap benefits. But I think Nick was probably looking at it that, well, I have this running back who is still a great running back, However, sometimes you got to trade when the value is high, and that's what he's doing. He's trading when the value is still when there's still a great value there. Because let's say Ty Gurley was to have a bad year, he held on to Gurley, he had a
Right?
bad year.
Right on.
Now you're not getting as much. You're not going to get as much in 2021 for him, especially with the 5 keepers in 2021, because that's going to play a lot. That's going to be a. I can tell you this: I'm personally already looking at 2021's keepers. I really am.
I'll tell you what is I really don't like trading. Last year was the most I've traded ever, and it's just because I had to do something. I've either been middle of the pack or I finished dead last year. But because, like you said, sometimes you have to trade when they're hot. You got to trade high. My problem with that is, what if I trade this guy and he's my key to get me to the trophy? Or this guy's not doing nothing. I could trade high. I send him to somebody else. All of a sudden, he blows up, doing phenomenal numbers, and my end of the trade didn't work out.
Right.
That's why it's such a gamble for me, and I have a hard time doing it. But
Where me on the flip side, the funny thing, he's gonna laugh about this, but he knows it's true. So this is gonna be our 7th draft. So this is our 7th season.
okay,
I've only drafted in the first round with my actual first round pick once, and that was our very first draft.
yeah, he's
Because what I've always done is I've always used
like
my
take a
draft.
second mortgage on his house. I think he
Well,
traded in his
but no,
car
but
at
what I
one
do is,
point.
but here's the funny thing is, I think all but 1 year, I still always had a first round pick. So what I do is I would make a trade, and I would trade my first round pick, and then there'd be a player I wanted. Or in some cases, for example, the first year I did it, I was eyeballing a year out. So I've done that before too, where I did that for this draft, where I was eyeballing actually 2 years out for a player, and I tried to accumulate extra first round picks with the thought of moving up if I had a good year, moving up to possibly get who I really really wanted. So what I've always done is I've traded my first round of pick away during the season or during the off season. And then once we get, past the draft and everything, I say, well, there's a player I really want in the first round pick. There's a first round pick I really, really want. So then I'll figure out a way to still get a first round pick to possibly get it. So I think I've only not drafted in the first round maybe twice. Maybe there was twice I didn't draft in the first round. Definitely once. But I've always finagled my way back in. And this year is no different. This year is different actually. I did actually have my first round pick still. I didn't trade away, but like I said, I kept it for a reason. But I accumulated another first round pick, and we'll get to that here in a second. But in Nick's case, Mark Andrews I think is key to him because Mark Andrews is going to be Lamar Jackson's safety valve.
Agreed.
He's someone that's going to get a lot of catches from Lamar Jackson. He's established himself now as the guy in Baltimore, and he's working on establish himself as a top 10 tight end. So that was actually a very good move to acquire him. I look at this trade personally. Um, I don't know if I do this trade, but if it was proposed to me, I would definitely think about it and I would consider it very highly. Like I said, I'm different than a lot of other people how they think. Um,
Well, look where Ritz is coming from too. 3-time
this
champion.
actually, okay, you know what? This looks like a trade I would have done. Like I would have proposed this trade. Um,
Well, you sort of did, and we'll get to that in a minute because that's trade number 2.
so trade number
That
two.
also happened on February 18th.
So trade number two. Um, so Anthony Sykes acquired from me wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, our first overall pick from last year, running back David Montgomery, tight end Mike Gisak, and then he also acquired my first overall pick, which is the 13th overall pick in the 2020 draft, and the 11th overall pick, which was Rich's, which I acquired, um, like I said, 2 years ago
So that's 2 first rounds
in
for
a
him.
trade. So he's getting 2 first-round picks out of it,
Okay.
and in return, I'm receiving the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft and a 5th-round pick in this year's draft.
What a crook.
But Anthony's situation, um, he needed running back terribly, and
Yeah, but what did David
but
Montgomery
hold
do
on,
last
you know
year?
what? And here's the funny thing is when this trade was actually in talks, literally, I almost changed my mind on this trade. I actually thought about saying to myself, well, I got pick 11 and 13. Am I giving too much up for what I'm going to get? And I might be. And there's a player obviously I want really, really badly. That's why I did it. But I strongly started thinking maybe I should just hold on to Montgomery because they really break down the numbers he had. I think he had 800-yard rushing season on one
Did he
of the
really?
on one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Horrible.
So
Horrible.
they're gonna obviously they have to address line and they just lost one of their starters. Kyle Long retired. So
Did he? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
so they got to address that. So they got to add linemen because number one, you have a quarterback who is obviously, I think Trubisky can produce. I'm going to put Trubisky in this boat. Trubisky's in a situation where he needs the players around him. He's not an overall stud.
He
He's
needs
not,
the pieces.
he didn't do, you had him 2 years ago when the
Yep.
Bears went to the playoffs.
Yep.
He didn't do that bad, but he needs players around him, and David Montgomery is no different. David Montgomery is a good running back, but he just needs some help in front to create some
Yep.
holes for him.
Oh yeah, I don't want to close the book on him just yet. I think he's going to be a good
you
talent.
know,
Just
and I mean Juju, he's getting a top rate wide receiver. This is a trade that's going to help Anthony a lot. And Gisak actually came into his own in
well
the
now
end of the year.
to what you said to Deontay Johnson, his point last year. Ben went out. That didn't do Juju any favors either.
No, but Ben's going to come back healthy, and I guarantee you this: the Steelers are going to draft a quarterback probably. I don't know if they'll take one in the first round. They'll probably take one. They're going to take their future in the second round, and they'll probably look at they'll probably also address, I'm sure, backup quarterback in free agent market. And we'll get to that, of course. Um, and obviously, in return, I'm getting the third overall pick. Look, I want one of those running backs. And obviously, I was willing to give up a lot.
Which running back?
Okay.
Like we don't know.
Everyone knows I've been eyeballing J.K. Dobbins since he was a freshman. However, if I don't get J.K. Dobbins, honestly, I'm not going to cry. I'm high in all three of them. I'm in a. I don't look at myself. Obviously, yes, I want J.K. Dobbins because I'm thinking with my heart, not my head. But J.K. Dobbins is going to be a starting running back in this league.
But you know what? There's some good backs coming out this year, man. Yeah, I heard you bringing up the kid from Vanderbilt. I don't know much about him either, but they're talking about him a lot.
Cam Akers, I think, is going to be a really good
Definitely
running
somebody
back.
worth doing research on.
Um, but like I said, I don't see myself in a losing situation, whichever running back I end up with a third overall pick. So let's move on to the third trade that took
So the
place.
third trade took place on February 21st.
And this one was Will Baldry is receiving Rich Nillet's 2020 third round pick and sixth round pick. In return, Rich is receiving Will's 2020 fifth round pick and 14th round pick. But the kicker on this one is quarterback Drew Lock. And, I think you're exchanging Drew Lock for a third round pick is what you're doing. Um, Honestly, I think Will could have got more for him. I
Could he have though? Like right now, I mean,
Drew Lock.
he's still
If Drew
unproven,
Lock was
correct?
in our draft, let's say Rich didn't keep him, and Drew Lock's in our draft, I don't see him making it past early second round. He's gonna be the guy in
Okay,
Denver.
okay, I'll give you that.
I don't see him now. If you're gonna break it down, you look at some of these rookies. Joe Burrow would go before Drew Lock.
Sure.
Tua would go before Drew Lock. Herbert might go before Drew Lock. But Drew Lock actually has a good arm. I actually debated drafting him last year
Here's
as a
here's
backup.
here's the thing though, man. I think the real test is going to be this season coming up because when he came in last year to Denver, and what are they won 5 of their last 6 games with him in it?
Mhm.
Was that the stats? nobody had tape on him.
Right.
Now they got tape on him. So let's see if he can. I mean, I said the same thing about Lamar Jackson. I'm like, he ain't going to be nothing this year. He can't throw. And then,
But Denver's
hey,
in a situation also, in all fairness, their offensive line needs help. Now, they drafted, obviously, Noah Fant in the first round last year, and I think he's going to pay off dividends. He started coming on strong at
yep,
the end of the year.
yep. I like that kid.
Cortland Sutton is going to be a primetime receiver in this league,
They need more of
my
that.
opinion.
Yeah.
But they need more than that. I understood trading away Emmanuel Sanders, but you gave away someone that would have helped, not only helped on the field, but helped mentor Sutton even more. But I see that as a win-win. Is I don't want to say I don't want to value these more. Like I
I feel like
said,
it's an even trade at this
it's
point.
an even trade, but I think Will could have got a second rounder for it. I don't think he would have got a first round for Drew Lock, but I think he could have pushed the initiative and gotten a second round pick out of it. But it's not a bad trade by any means. I mean, a third round pick in our league is still a very very important pick.
Sure.
And I've won.
Especially the next coming years.
Yeah, yeah. I've talked to some of the people. For example, Ross Carlson was not at our meeting. He wasn't able to watch it. He had reasons he couldn't be there, and I told him after the fact. I'm like, my opinion, my advice. I would before I was able to actually sit down with him and break down what the voting was. My advice to you, if you're gonna do a trade, I would hold on to your 2021 picks. And he kind of knew where I was going with it. What was probably voted on, but I said I'd hold on to those until you talk to me. So, like I said, I am not trading up any of my 2021 picks. I guess at this time, I guess things could change. I mean, I'm surely if I'm going to do it, I'm not touching the first probably 5 or 6 rounds. Unless I was. I mean, it would have to be some miraculous blockbuster deal to do it. So we'll move on to the next trade. Also,
February 22nd.
also Will Baldry, and this one. See, now he's doing like we just talked about how important the third round is. He accumulated another third round pick. He got Dennis Byam's third round pick. Um, in exchange, he gave up his sixth round pick in 2020 and tight end Will Dissly. Now, I actually had Will Dissly at one point. I had him for the first half of the year because he got hurt. And he actually was my starting tight end, and he was actually putting up good numbers. Him and Russell Wilson, because he's the Seahawk, they had a good connection going. I mean, he wasn't the main guy, go-to guy, but he was a good safety valve. Um, I look at this trade I look at it as a win-win for both because um, Dennis has Noah Fant, so he doesn't even have to draft a tight end in this draft.
But do you think Will should have given up a later round? Because I'm looking at the trade right before this one. He obviously had 2 6-round picks. He gave them both up.
No, he acquired a sixth round pick.
Oh,
This
so
is acquired. So he got Rich's sixth round pick.
so he just turned around and probably gave
So
one of those
he
two.
gave his first
Okay,
round pick.
never mind. I stand corrected.
And they're almost next to each other, anyways, because Rich picks 11th, and uh, in the minus trade, obviously, Rich's slot is 11 and Will's slot is 14. So they're almost the same. They're only a couple picks apart. But I look at this as essentially I could see Will Dissly going in the third round. I don't see him going past the fourth round because he should be the starter in Seattle.
Agreed.
Comes back healthy.
Agreed.
So I look at that as really a win-win for both teams. And then we go to the fifth trade we had take
February
place.
25th.
Will Baldry again, trade master. So he acquires wide receiver Cooper Kupp from Mark, and then he also acquired a 2021 14th round pick and a 2022 14th round pick. I did say 14th round pick on the 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay. He got the 2021 and 2022 14th round picks. Mark receives in this deal a 2021 first round pick and a 2022 third round pick.
Which shows you that Mark, a lot like yourself, is really planning for the future
Right.
because he took no players from Will. He just wanted the draft
And it
picks.
also shows you that Will is putting all in 2020. He's saying I have the pieces to do it now. I'm gonna take a chance on my future with that 2021 first round pick, and I'm gonna put all in. I'm gonna acquire pieces to make myself better, to put myself over the top, to win my division again, and to not finish third, but to win it all in 2020. Um, you know, with this trade, I like I said, I wouldn't have done this trade just because it required giving up a first round pick in 2021. I have no problem with the 2022 third rounder at all. Um, and Cooper Cup, if healthy, I have Jared Goff as my quarterback. So trust me. I mean, this is definitely a
You know
big
what he can
piece.
do. Yeah.
He's definitely a big piece, and he's
Yep.
going to give good production. And if Will thinks he can win it all in 2020, I don't see anything wrong with this trade at all. But I also see it if he doesn't win it all, or at least get to the final, then maybe this wasn't as big a trade, or maybe this trade doesn't help. This kind of hurts him now. Like I said, he's all in, and we'll get to that here in a second. Any final thoughts on fifth trade?
No. Same thing as you said. I agree. And on the flip side of that, it's like Mark. I think Mark is like you said, if Will doesn't at least get to the finals, and the trade maybe kind of failed him.
No,
To where Mark is thinking, in my personal opinion, I think he's thinking, look, of course I want to win it all, but if I go down next year, I'm okay with that because I'm building for the future.
I mean, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. The pick that Mark is going to get is still going to be as far as first round pick, it's going to be the bottom six first round pick. I mean, unless something horribly happens to Will's team, Will's going to be, I mean, in my opinion, as of right now, before keepers are announced, before the draft takes place, just looking at raw talent, he's acquired what he has. Will should be in the championship playoff.
Sure.
We're talking March 14th, 2020. We'll find out a lot come December 2020 on that. But so now we go to the sixth trade.
On the 26th of February.
Okay, so in this one, Anthony Sykes received running back DeAndre Washington from Will, along with a 2021 second round pick. Will receives wide receiver Marvin Jones and a 2021 10th round pick. Now, again, this is going to hammer home my point. Will is all in on 2020.
Yeah.
Marvin Jones is going to be a piece that if Stafford's healthy, Marvin Jones, Marvin Jones took over the Golden Tate role.
He's the number two. I mean,
He's going to get catches, he's going to make plays, he's going to produce, and Will is setting himself up to have. I don't want to call these, you know,
well, so right now you're looking at Cooper Cup and Marvin Jones in his starting lineup as two receivers,
and
two
I,
elite receivers right
I
there.
should have printed off everyone's actual rosters. Um, but yeah, like I said, he's gonna have it's gonna pay dividends if he wins it all or reaches the final. But then here's the flip side of this: is he doesn't have a first round or a second round pick in 2021. That's the trade-off. That's what I'm saying.
First and second, you said?
Mark got his first,
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
so he's
So okay,
going
yeah,
all in right now.
he's okay.
And I knew that this would happen. I just didn't know who it would be. I thought someone would look at their team and say, well, I can go all in right now and try to win this now because next year is going to be a complete restructure. And we may see more trades. Now, I think you could see some of the first or second round picks in 2021 move, but I think it's going to be after the keeper deadline. I think you could see some
Okay.
more move potentially
Okay.
um, as people look at this, and it's going to be always very specific people. For example, possibly a Nick Ritz would look at possibly doing that.
To add to your point,
Ross Carlson could possibly look at doing that. Guys that are, if you're a team that's not, for example, Tony Mize, I'm going to use Tony, or your team right now, you're not going to trade because you're not a player away from winning it all. No
I'm not
offense.
trading nothing. I was just going to tell you,
I
to
mean,
add to your point about Will throwing it all in, on February 22nd, he hit me up when I was at work. He said, I'm looking for a first round pick, and it looks like your team could use a starting running back. I'll trade you Patrick Laird and a 6th-round pick for a first-round pick. So he was going to give me both of those for my first-round picks. Of course, I denied it. I got 3 first-round picks for a reason. I'm really trying to rebuild my team and
right,
hope I can turn this into something.
right.
But again, to your point, yes, Will is definitely throwing it all in. He's like, okay, I want that trophy next year. I'm going to do what I got to do.
So from there, we're going to move on to. Now, like I said, I don't think this is a horrible trade. I don't know if I said that or not. Um,
No, I don't
Again,
think so.
it's not a trade I would have done because it involves that 2021 second rounder.
Right.
But if you turn that into a 2021,
Now, DeAndre Washington, he's the Raiders, right?
yeah,
He's the backup for Josh Jacobs,
I believe so, yes.
who had an amazing rookie year. But how many touches did
At
DeAndre
the end of the
Washington
day,
get?
this trade is it's Marvin Jones for the second round pick in 2021. That's how I look at this trade.
Agreed.
Um,
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
I mean, DeAndre Washington, I'm not sure if he'll be kept or if he won't. I look at him as a potential
That's
piece.
why I was asking exactly how he
Um,
performed last year.
I look at this as if I'm Anthony, I'm going to have 2 second round picks in 2021, which is going to be to me, having that second round pick is equal to having, put it this way, let's weight it this way. A second round pick in 2021 is going to be the equivalent of having a first round pick in 2020, no matter where it falls,
Agreed, because we'll be
because
down
there's
in.
so many people that
Yep,
are going to be available.
yep.
All
Down
right,
to
well,
five
let's
people.
move on. So now
So,
we get to our usual trade master, the guy that always does trades the last 3 years, and it's
yep.
paid off for him. So trade 7,
This was on the 27th.
27th of February.
Yep.
We're looking at
So
Nick
February
Ritz.
went wild with the trades, man.
Oh
This
yeah,
is shortly after our meeting,
it
correct?
literally, and what
So
was the first one, the 18th, and we're now talking.
yeah,
So this was
absolutely.
Nick Ritz acquiring running back Devin Singletary, who was a rookie in 2019,
I like it.
from Tony Mize for wide receiver Keenan Allen. The funny thing about this is in 20 um, in 2017, I know where I was because I was with Nick Ritz when he acquired Keenan Allen from Patrick Lane, who is the team that Tony Mize took over for. We were actually on our way to the Hall of Fame uh, induction when Nick said, "Get Patrick on the phone." So through the vehicle, through the truck, called him up, had him on speakerphone in the truck, and Patrick and Nick worked out the trade right there. To send at the time, Keenan Allen was coming off an injury because Keenan Allen he was always kind of I don't say a boomer bust, but he was because he either did tremendous value, tremendous production, or he got hurt. When he plays, he puts out tremendous
Yeah,
stats. The
yeah,
problem is he's always an injury away
yep.
from missing a whole
And
like
in
half
this
the season.
particular one, I like. I think Ritz got the better end of the deal of the trade. I like
With the
Singletary.
youth.
I think he's gonna.
Yep,
And Keenan Allen, well, Rivers is not there anymore, correct?
correct.
So who's throwing to him?
Well, and we're going to discuss that in a free agency show. And like I said, we were talking about possibly they they could draft Justin Herbert or Jordan Love, and there's gonna be a solid quarterback there. Um, this is a trade. Now, this is a trade. How to look at this one? If this trade was pitched to me, I would have definitely given it strong consideration. Um, because this is, getting Keenan Allen is kind of a now piece. What Tony has done is he's made himself, I don't want to say a contender, but when you show up to play Deadlights Gaming, which is Tony's team's name, they're not a pushover. And same with Anthony's team. Anthony's team, Anthony's team actually did very well in 2019. Um, he actually for a while there was a period where he was contending for the division title, and then he had some issues with injury, and then he had where he didn't have a quarterback for a week, and that kind of brought him down, unfortunately. But these trades that these two individuals have made have boosted their teams for not only the now but potentially the future. And understand with Tony, kind of like me, he's thinking with his heart on this one because he's a Charger fan, loves the
Right, right.
Chargers. So I can see why he did the deal. And actually, the funny thing is, I was actually by him when he was talking about this trade that was offered to him, and he's like, "I'm gonna do it." I'm like, okay. He's like, he knows I'm a Charger fan, you must have told him.
Oh, you know what? I'm not.
No, hold on. I'm like, said to him, he's like, you must have told him I'm a Charger fan. I'm like, Tony, at our meeting, you wore a Philip Rivers jersey. I don't think it took a
I
brain surgeon to figure it out.
think he had the powdered blue Chargers hat on too, if I
He
recall.
may have. He may have. Or he had his Clutch hat. Shout out to Clutch for Tony there. Um, they're a rock band.
I know who Clutch is.
Okay. They're not we're not talking on your car. Final trade number 8. Final trade as of
28th,
right now.
February 28th. Once again, the trade king.
Nick Ritz acquires from Guy Conkey wide receiver Kenny Galladay
Nice.
and running back Darius Geis
Not sure.
for running back Joe Mixon.
Iffy.
If I'm either one of these guys, I do this deal. This is literally this is a win-win because
Kenny Galladay's the best one out of this.
Joe
whole
Mixon is 1,000-yard running back.
When did he start coming around? I don't know how he did last year, so I'm asking.
I see Joe Mixon is going to pay, and especially if let's say they draft Joe Burrow, let's say they address their offensive line. Joe Mixon stays healthy. Joe Mixon is 1,000-yard wide receiver or running back, not wide receiver. He's 1,000-yard running back without question. On the flip side, you're giving up. So really, this deal is Kenny Galladay for Joe Mixon.
Great.
Which in a lot of ways I think is an even deal straight up. But what he's also acquiring, and the value, actually, I take that, it's not straight up. Joe Mixon's value is higher because he's a running back. Running back values are always higher than wide receivers.
Fair, but who produced more last year?
I don't have the numbers, but I bet if you look at them, they're probably pretty even.
Oh, you might be right. I think Mixon did start to come around last year, but
Darius Geis is a boomer bust.
yes.
And this is someone that was talked about being a high pick in our draft.
He's a name.
And he
right
got
now.
hurt. So he didn't go as highly. I remember he got hurt in the preseason before our draft.
Yeah.
And guys still took him, I think, in the second or third round that
Yeah,
year.
there were still guys who, even though they knew he was hurt, they drafted him to hang on to him
Right.
because there's so much hype in this
And
kid.
I can tell you personally, I was looking at guys. I'm like, well, where? Because I was starting to think like, where do I pick him? Because depending where, like, I don't want to take him too high because I know he's not playing this year. But I gotta like look. So I think I was eyeballing him in the 4th round. So he went just before I was gonna take him. But I mean, this could be, as far as Geis, it's a boomer bust. Like I said, right now, today, I look at this as a win-win deal for both teams. Where it's a loss is if Geis turns out to be 1,000-yard running back. Then Nick Ritz got the better end of this deal. But as of right now, March 14th, this is an even deal. Because it's an even deal running back for the receiver that are going to, right now, probably produce very similar. Maybe a little heavier for Mixon, but pretty similar. Geis is the piece. Geis is this is going to make Nick Ritz's possibly make or break, and also his future, because I would see Geis as a future keeper.
Well, maybe Mixon may have the upper advantage because he is starting to come around, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Like he did do a little bit better last year. They get a rookie quarterback. They're really going to rely on that run game.
And
if Stafford gets hurt, which he's been hurt, does Galladay put up the same
here's
numbers?
the thing. Mixon's the guy. There's no committee. Like right now, even if Geis is fully healthy, Peterson is still in the mix.
Oh, I thought he was.
Adrian Peterson is still absolutely in the mix.
They're
Johnson?
expecting Chris
Thompson is
Chris Thompson,
he's not there anymore. I think he went to New Orleans, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But anyways, you got Peterson and Geis are both in the mix together. And honestly, given his history, taking Peterson's age, taking Geis's injury history, if I'm the Redskins, I'm looking at drafting a running back probably in the 2nd or 3rd round. Because you don't know. That's the thing, is Geis is unknown.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at his production from college. Like, this guy was Leonard Fournette's backup slash replacement,
Yep.
had, potentially would have been, had he not gotten hurt, potentially would have been a top three overall pick in our draft,
Right.
if not
Right.
possibly the first overall pick. And he has all these injury problems. So this is a give and take, definitely. Like I said, I look at this as right now it's a push, but it could go either way depending on guys.
Agreed.
And there isn't a trade number 9 yet. There is a trade number 9 out there. Hopefully that becomes a trade number 9. I'm not going to go into any specifics with it. May involve my team, may not.
It does.
Um, so we'll see what happens. Let's just say this. If it happens, a lot of people are going to question if I should be called the fantasy commissioner, but a lot of people are also going to say maybe it's not a horrible deal either.
Interesting.
It'd be a blockbuster.
For you, obviously. We already know he cheats.
No. It'd be a blockbuster both ways. Actually, let me put it this way. I think more people would think the other team is getting the better end of the deal.
Hmm.
So, and it's actually a deal that I pitched it to someone else. Actually, they turned it down. Um, but we'll see what happens. So, that's gonna finish up the trade breakdown. I think we covered everything right now. That went a lot longer than I thought it would. It covered almost an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, we got off on a little rant
So
there.
we get talking. It's sometimes you don't shut us up. So right now we're going to take a break here. We're going to end this stream, and I haven't decided how, if it will be 10, 15, it might be a half hour. We might grab a bite to eat right now. It's 6 p.m. and I actually have a tournament I got to do later tonight, so I got to make sure I'm off probably by around 8 o'clock for sure. Actually, I could probably go a little longer than that, but I don't think he's going to want to do another couple. We're going to try to keep the free agent streams not to this kind of time frame. But we covered a lot more content than we are going to cover in the free agent, even though this is about the free agents. What you will see, in my opinion, I could be wrong, the offensive portion could potentially go an hour. 45 minutes. The defensive one will be a lot quicker, I think. So there's more to cover in the offense, and there's more people who want to talk offense than talk defense. So with that, we're gonna end the stream, sign off,
We'll be back.
and we'll be back. Not 2-2, but we'll be back on the flip side. We'll see you real soon. Fantasy Commissioner out.